You're listening to the 40 Fit Radio podcast, dedicated to the 40-plus community. Join us as we discuss the truth about fitness and health using science, reason, and the experiences of our host and content experts. Welcome to the 40 Fit Nation. Hey, welcome back to 40 Fit Radio and welcome back to the 40 Fit Nation. I'm your host, Coach D. I'm here in the house with Coach Trent.
Yo, good morning.
And we are live from Keller, Texas. Well, we're never actually live.
That's right.
Because these are all recorded.
There's a tape delay.
Yeah, we're live recorded, later produced.
That's because I've got to take out all of your expletives.
Hey, that's not true.
When you're swearing up a storm, I just got to...
He takes out all the ums and the
cut.
and the ha and the... That's what we do when we get old. So, yeah, man, we are here and we're going to talk about the sustainable mindset or sustainable fitness. You know, one of the underpinning themes or what you would call first principles of my philosophy, and I think Trent's philosophy, it's become more and more his philosophy as he climbs the age ladder. I think it's true with a lot of individuals who are strength professionals or fitness professionals. And as they're aging, if they have any level of self-awareness, they start to realize that what they should be providing for their clients and what they should be providing for their own fitness is something that's a sustainable model.
Yeah.
I think that's way underserviced and way underrepresented in the fitness industry. I never hear anybody else talking about sustainable training, sustainable fitness modeling.
Well, it's not very sexy, is it?
No, it's not. It's boring.
It's like, hey, let's take a little PR today so that we have PRs tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that's not as exciting as P90X.
No,
90 days to get ripped.
Crush it today.
Yeah.
Yeah, have abs of steel, or you're going to have the body that you never had. I don't know how it's possible, but I mean, it could be possible, but I mean, I think that sustainable fitness planning, sustainability in your fitness programming is something that's crazy, way underrated, because here's the point, guys. At the end of the day, if you don't have a fitness program that you can perform or that you can do at some level for a long period of time, or a mindset, more importantly, a mindset.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about an actual singular program. I'm talking about a mindset in regards to how you adapt your training to different types of athletic endeavors or recreational events or whatever. If you don't have a sustainable mindset, then you might run into the problem where you use it all up too fast.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem. This has kind of become more of a theme in the way that I program for my clients and also the way I treat my patients, in the sense that I'm trying to provide both treatment and fitness programming in a manner that is something that they're going to get good benefit from today.
Yeah. Because
there's enough stress provided in the programming and in the training where they're going to get good benefit today, but it's something that they're going to be able to do for a long, long time.
Right.
You know?
The narrative that we talked about a lot at the beginning of this podcast, all the way back to episode 1, is that your training has to be stressful and it has to be intense to actually make progress. And that's where a lot of people fall short is that jog around the block. That's a great place to start, but it's not going to get
Once
you very far.
You're there.
Because you adapt very quickly, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to continually increase the intensity. And there's not a whole lot of modalities or exercise types, things you can do that are incrementally, that can be incrementally made more stressful, right? There's only a handful of things that we can really do for a long period of time.
Right.
But I think the problem is people who have bought into that and who are training, this is a different population we're talking about now, different group of people. Sometimes I think the temptation to make things like optimal, like what is the most that I can possibly get out of this program?
Right.
And, because as a novice, when I first really learned how to train, I was focusing on intensity and driving stress.
Volume and
then I've got to keep doing that. It's like you find one thing that works and you're like, well, I got to keep doing that forever now.
Right. Which is not possible.
Which is not possible, right?
anybody that's been training for any length of time chronologically, but also any length of time under stress, I mean, time under tension, recognizes that that's just it's not sustainable.
That's right. And we when we talk about programming in the abstract, we talk about an optimal model and how we would drive stress continually for years and years and years. And that's great as an academic exercise. But there is a point where you have to learn as an athlete to switch your mindset to doing things that are going to keep you lifting and conditioning and training or doing your sport for years rather than the next 6 months or 1 year. We want to be doing it for 10 years, 20 years, because it's all about, at the end of the day, doing things that you love to do and being an optimal human being, which means not being jacked up.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you think about this, a lot of people, when they start training with their fitness program, they're thinking about the results that they're going to get within the next year. And or the next 6 months, or the next 3 months, or the next month. They're going on vacation in a month. They want to lean up a little bit. They want to lose some body fat. They want to look a little better. Or in 3 months, they have a lifting meet. Or in 6 months, they have this. Or in a year, they want to be here. They want to lose this much weight, gain this much muscle. And those are all appropriate goals. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
But we're really talking more about micro programming there.
Yes.
There's micro and macro programming, and there's kind of that mid-range too. So micro programming would be, what are you going to do today? What are you going to do this week? What are you going to do in the next 2 weeks, in the next month, in the next 3 months maybe? And then there's macro programming, and I don't know what that length of time is. It's variable. It really doesn't matter. But macro looks at the longer range, and micro looks at the shorter range. I would propose that in the macro programming model, we don't look far enough out.
Yes.
And you and I were having this conversation off radio just a few minutes ago, and that was, think about how I said, hey, think about how you feel today when you're in your 30s and just add 20 years to that.
Right.
Add 20 years to your programming, to your desire to want to come into the gym, to the way your body feels, to your connective tissue. All right, let's add 30 years. Let's add 40 years. And no one can predict the future. But at the same time, I think when we're using up our body, let me give you a good example. I love my staff at our clinical practices. I love, at Riata Therapy, at our physical therapy practice, I love my staff. They're amazing. They're all athletes or they were college athletes. They've all had some competitive athletic endeavor, and they all still train and stay in shape. So we're really blessed to have great doctors of PT. But one of them came to me recently and said, hey, I think we should do a Squat-tober. Because Sorinex, I think, sponsors this thing called Squat-tober.
Yeah, right. I've seen this.
Which is you do some squat variant every single day for 30 days for the month, or for whatever it is, for the month of October.
I'm out.
Yeah. I looked at him and I said, hey, I will let you take advantage of that great opportunity. But we are not promoting that, and I am not doing it.
No.
There was a time in my athletic career where I would do something less wise than that. Now, I don't want to risk an injury for the month of October. Right. Just doing nothing but squats and trashing myself. And so that's not training, that's exercise.
That's
exercise.
Right. Yeah.
It's novel and it's fun and it's creative and all those things.
Right.
But it's not training. And so to me, that input is not going to produce the appropriate output for me as an older lifter, as an older athlete, as a 53-year-old male.
Yeah.
And so I'm more careful about the types of inputs I put into my body because of the desired output that I want. And I want to be training and lifting just as heavy, as strong as I am today when I'm 63, 10 years from now. So I think that thought line of having a sustainable mindset is very, very important when you're sitting down with your fitness coach, your strength coach, whatever type of fitness professional you work with, and say, okay, I'm going to do this month. What am I going to be doing in 3 months? Or here are my goals. Here's what I want to feel like when I'm here.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to feel like when I'm 10 years down the road. Now, none of us can predict exactly how we're going to feel or what we're going to be doing. Injury comes in, sickness comes in.
We said it, life gets in the way.
Life deloads.
The only thing we know is that life will get in the way at some point, and you'll have to build back up.
Right. But we want to try to use the most appropriate programming so that we can be getting stronger, be getting more able in the 10 general physical skills, and we're also going to be able to do that for a long, long, long time.
Yes.
That's my goal.
Yeah, and so, if you're listening to this and you are a novice and you've really just started training, file this one away for 6 months from now, or maybe a year from now. In your first year of training, things are going to be intense and they're going to be hard, because that's the point. Like, we've got to get you adapted to hard training. This is really an episode that's really more for the person who's trained for a couple years, and you are maybe, whatever your kind of endeavor is, to be really strong or to be really fit or to really push the limits on whatever sport you're doing, you might be walking up against that line that we've talked about in the fitness and health continuum, right?
Right.
Where you might be trading health for more fitness at some point.
Right.
And so this is really, this is for you. I think that when we're talking about programming for somebody, it's really no different than nutrition, right? What do we talk about with nutrition? You've got to make enough change to move the needle. Right. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to doing the same things every day.
Right.
Doing things consistently over time.
So
boring. It's so boring. But the same thing applies to programming as well, right? It's got to be, you've got to be doing enough to move the needle.
Right.
But again, as a developed athlete, you're really looking for things that you can do consistently. And it doesn't make sense to go crush it unless you have a sport that you're doing and a reason for it, right?
Well, and I think that you have to change your mindset, that you're using fitness for life.
That's
that
right.
You're using fitness for, Body for Life, the guy that used to do Body for Life. I think he still does. But that you're using your fitness for life goals, life activities, life capacity. It could be a recreation.
Yeah.
It could be a sport.
Fitness is a means. It's not an
end. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Now, for some people, fitness becomes their sport.
Right.
Fitness becomes their means. It becomes the end to them. And one common thread, after being in the fitness industry for almost 30 years, one common thread that I see throughout almost every single person that I know that has had a crazy high level of fitness at some point in some sport or endeavor, they eventually don't do that anymore.
Right.
Because it's not sustainable.
Exactly.
I mean, CrossFit is a great example. And there are some things that I really love about CrossFit, but I know very few individuals who are competing at the same level today that they were 10 years ago. And I'm talking about young individuals too, very young individuals who start in their 20s and now they're in their 30s. And their quality of life health-wise is less today potentially than it was before because they've used themselves up.
Right.
Now, I'm a strong believer, and I mean, you know me, I think I have a relatively high fitness level. And I can do things that most men my age can't do anymore.
How many guys are doing standing backflips?
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, a squat for reps.
And squatting 315 for reps.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. And so, but I think too, there's a balance there. There's a balance. I want to be doing that when I'm 60.
Yeah.
And I want clients who want to be doing that when they're 60 or when they're 70. Now, I realize there's going to be a downward decline. We want to slow that decline down. We want to slow that curve down some. But I think that a lot of individuals don't recognize that if you're a 35 or a 40-year-old male or female and you're trying to crush it like you did when you were in high school or college, that's only going to last so long. And for most individuals, especially in the CrossFit industry, it's an 18 to 24 month endeavor.
Yeah, yes.
At the end of 24 months, you are so trashed and thrashed and your connective tissue is so junked up because of the volume and the high intensity catabolic training model that you cannot sustain that. And now I call it the Metallica syndrome. You are broken, beaten, and scarred now. And you're trying to pick up the pieces and try some other athletic endeavor.
And think about it. If you did CrossFit hard for 2 years, right, you're going to get stronger. You're going to get a lot more fit. Is that really that much time for your connective tissue, your tendons and your ligaments to adapt to the work that you're imposing on them? because I think about the development of a lifter who's doing more of just like a steady barbell training without all the high intensity interval training with the gymnastics movements. And
a couple of years is good time under load.
That's good time under load, but
you still are not a super experienced lifter.
That's right. That's really you're still very much kind of middle intermediate lifter after a couple of years.
Based on your genetics, and
you'll sort of like, if you're training intelligently, then you will spend a lot of time kind of just punching the clock, and a lot of that is really just getting the rest of your body adapted to the strength that you've built. Because the strength in the muscle bellies comes fairly quickly. But it takes some time for everything else to start, for that bone density to come through. And
again, we talk about that concept of exercise versus training too. And a lot of times in some of these fitness programming models, there is no fitness program. There is no training model. It's
every day is a performance.
Right. Exactly. Every day is a competition. Every day is some type of high intensity interval training with some strength thrown in there, but not linear enough and not methodical enough to create the kind of strength gains that are linear in their nature. And so, you do get stronger. Anyone gets stronger when you apply loads to them.
Sure. Yeah. But, and CrossFit is plenty hard. It's definitely stressful enough.
And this is not a bash on CrossFit at all. This sustainability podcast is not about CrossFit.
That's right.
It's about anything. Could be cycling, could be overrunning, it could be triathlons.
It's not CrossFit the model that's the problem. It's people that are misapplying the principles of CrossFit.
And there are some things that I think that in the foundational thinking model about CrossFit that are probably aren't consistent with my mindset of the science and logic and reason of how we should be training. But those things are not big deal breakers for me. It's really the fact that individuals do not train. They exercise. They do not train. And if you're exercising right now and you're at a very low threshold, then that's going to be fine. You're going to be able to do that for a long, long time. You're never going to have that high of a fitness level, but that's okay. That's a sustainable model. But if you are exercising at a very high level and you're not training and you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking about the sustainability of your programming. I mean, when I sit down with a client, the number one thing I ask them now is, and it's the same with a patient, it's, where do you want to be 20 years from now? Now, I know we can't predict that, and that's a big macro model. Macro goal. I know we can't predict the future, but what I'm really trying to ask them is, what kind of quality of life are you looking for in the future? Do you want to still be able to be reasonably higher leveled in your fitness? Do you want to be at a fitness level that's at a higher level than your cohorts? Or would you be fine to just be walking around the block? Fast-paced walking or whatever.
This kind of stuff, anyone who's going to do something long-term, which to me is really more than just a few weeks. If you're going to actually commit to a new habit, you can't white-knuckle your way through anything for more than a few weeks. That's why January 1st, everybody signs up for the gym, and then by March, they're gone.
And I think you also have to get... Go ahead.
Yeah, but I think it always comes back to values. We've talked about that before. You have to identify first, what are your values in life? And what do you want to do with your life? What are sort of the core principles of your life that you live by? And when fitness aligns with those, when fitness is required to reach those principles in your life, then you will do it long term.
I'll give you a great example. You're right. When I start getting heavier in my squat loads, my knees will start barking at me a little bit. And I'll notice it in the squat, but where I really notice it in is my activities of daily living. So I'll go to get on a horse, and I'll go to step up into a stirrup to mount a horse, into the saddle, and I'll notice that my left knee will be a little painful in the joint, not in the muscles and the tendons and the tie-ins and stuff, but actually in the joint. So I know my joint's kind of barking at me. Hey, I'm a little angry at you, And so I'll back off a little bit in my training model, just because I know I'm lifting good. My form is very reasonable. I'm dialed in on my form. I need to maybe change my programming or back off, because at the end of the day, my overreaching goal is quality of life and doability.
Being able to get on that horse and do work on the ranch.
And so that's the goal. That's the goal, is to be out and go and elk hunt and climb and hike and do a trail run and lift and do all these things that add to the quality of my life and make me reasonably able.
Yeah.
And so I think that people, they don't think about their fitness programming like that. And the other thing they don't think about is the fact that as you're moving forward, you're not always moving upward.
Right.
As you're moving forward in time chronologically, you're not always going up.
Yeah.
You're not always going up in strength. You're not always, there may be one variable of the 10 general physical skills that you are improving upon. One of them might be accuracy, or one of them might be balance. One of them might be mobility. But you may be trying to maintain, which is very hard to do, in the other skills, or you might actually be declining a slight bit because you're focusing on something else.
Right.
And that's okay, because you can come back to one of the other 10 general physical skills and work on them. But I do realize that I'm not as strong as I've ever been right now.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Right.
Because I'm reasonably strong. But I'm also not getting ready to do a strength meet.
That's right.
So there's a balance there in that sustainability mindset.
There is. And, there's, not going to lie, there's some pressure as a coach to produce results, because people pay us a lot of money to train at our gym and to work with us and to take advantage of our expertise. And there's a lot of pressure to produce measurable results.
Right.
And we're big on numbers, because we're like, we don't like subjective measures of like, well, do I look better? Like, well, that's subjective.
Yeah. It's great. It's a great side benefit.
Yeah, it's a benefit,
one.
But it's hard to measure. Do I look better?
Right.
But we can measure. It's like, well, hey, did your squat go up?
Right.
Did your time on the rower go down?
Right.
Right. Can you do more than you did when you started?
Or we can also say that your waist size went down.
And your waist size went
but
down.
Your lean mass went up.
That's right.
And your body weight went up. Your lean mass went up. So we can measure some of those more aesthetic things.
Metrics are important.
Right.
And they do drive what we do. Ultimately, we do have to produce results, or else we're just wasting our time here.
And I think we've got to be creative too.
We do have to be creative, and I think
that's the hard part.
It does take
when
a
you
coach.
Get in the doldrums.
It is, and I'll give you a good example. I've got some. It's September.
Right.
No, it's October now. Goodness, yeah, it's just went right by me. It's October right now. A lot of the people that train in this gym are executives. They've got budgets to manage for their groups, for their teams, and it's budgeting season, getting ready for
they're gonna get real busy.
2021. And with the economy being the way it's been this year, there's budget cuts going on. It's a stressful time.
Yeah,
it's stressful anyway. This year is particularly stressful. Right. So a lot of these guys are juggling some tough stuff at work. Right. And I noticed like everybody's just crushing it. And about 3 weeks ago, everybody just started kind of falling apart, just starting to feel banged up. And it's hard because we want those results. And these guys are all very data-driven, results-driven people. But there's a few of them I just kind of had to say like, hey, look, it's been 3 weeks now where you're just kind of constantly feeling beat up. I think this is a big sign that says, hey, let's slow things down. Let's just work on feeling good for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Let's get through the stressful part of work and then move on and live to fight another day.
Right.
Because otherwise we're going to start pushing you into an area which is, I don't want you to get hurt. Right. That's going to really throw a wrench. Talking about not getting PRs, that's going to really back up your PRs for a while.
And I think that's a great example of a good sustainable mindset, that training is an advent for you. It's something that's part of a normal daily hygiene, or 3 times, 4 times a week, whatever you do it at the volume that you're in, frequency that you're doing it at. And it's part of your life. It needs to be there, but there are some things that take priority in regards to the intensity of attention right now.
Yeah, that's
the intensity of your mindset. And so training is there and needs to be there because it's going to help you make it through those times.
Right.
But it might wane down a little bit, and then it's going to come back up.
Yes.
And so I think that, again, that is one of the components. One of the factors of a sustainable mindset is the view that, hey, my training I might not be crushing it right now. I might not be, just peaking on all my lifts and everything, but I'm in the gym and I'm doing my stuff.
Right. That's right.
So now we don't want you to be in that mindset all the time. There needs to be some creativity sometimes in it. I think that, there are some individuals that have the mindset that they can just come in and, like you said, do the work. And nothing, you don't have to really change any of the lifts. You don't have to do anything like that. Yeah. But that's few and far between.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just keep doing the same thing. So practically what I'm doing for these guys, if you're wondering, is instead of, where we might have been lifting heavy on all of the main 4 lifts once a week, and then doing a lot of volume on all the main lifts, once a week.
Almost like a
and
Texas
then
method
accessory,
model.
right? So instead of doing that, we spread out the heavies to maybe once every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
And then brought the volume down a little bit and then spread it out over a longer period of time.
Sure.
In some cases, switching out exercises altogether. Like I got some guys doing light front squats.
Yeah, it's cool.
Are they getting
squat variant?
Are they getting stronger doing light front squats?
No.
If you're squatting 275 and you're front squatting 115 because you're learning,
right.
are you getting any stronger?
Right.
No, you're not. But it's novel.
Right.
It takes some of the stress off their back.
Mobility.
It's
Helps
something
with
different.
some mobility
Helps
of
with
some
mobility.
areas. Yeah.
And it's helping us
a
achieve
variant.
the goal of just lowering the stress altogether.
It's an accessory lift. It's
so
great.
it's just changing the goals, right?
Right.
The goal is to feel good right now. And that's
Exactly.
okay because these guys have been training for a couple years now.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about. When,
I think that's great. And I think that's a really good model for sustainability. And so let's close this up, folks. And basically, I think that for your fitness program to be able to survive and for you to stay in a gym environment, stay in a recreational sport environment, stay somewhere where you're training so that you can stay reasonably fit and it's a sustainable model, you've got to start thinking about your fitness with a long-term perspective.
Right.
And start thinking about your fitness in regards to not what am I getting out of it today and tomorrow or this week or this month, which all those things are important. That's what drives us is just the daily goals and the weekly goals and the every 2 weeks and the monthly goals. And so you got to have those short-term goals in front of you, but also make sure that all those short-term goals, those micro goals are going to put you where you want to be in, say, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. That's important.
Yeah. So I've got a metaphor. Maybe we can end on here. Let's see if this works. All right. So I'm not a very mechanically minded dude, but let me see if this works here. Okay. So let's imagine fitness as a car for a second, right? Your health and fitness is a car. If you let your car sit for years doing nothing, well, it's going to fall apart, right?
Right.
The gas destabilizes. The engine is not going to crank up.
That's what's really
right.
weird. You'd think a car that sits for a long time is in perfect shape,
pristine condition,
but all the materials decline, the upholstery, everything falls apart. It needs to be used.
It has to be used.
Right.
All right. So that's one in the spectrum. So we know it's no good just letting your car sit around forever, right? On the other hand, let's imagine the other end of the extreme, right? You get in your car and everywhere you go, when you are ready to hit the accelerator, you slam it, RPMs into the red as hard as you can go, and then as soon as you need to stop, you slam on the brakes. Yeah, when you hit a red light, you slam on the brakes.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, you are always either accelerating or slamming on the brakes. Like there's no in between. There's no coasting ever, right? Okay, well that's no good either, right? You're going to wear out the engine too soon.
Components
break
break down,
your
brakes.
Tires are going to fall off every
bet.
10,000 miles, right? It's crazy, right? Well, your body's not that different, right?
Right, absolutely.
It's you have to use it for it to be in optimal health.
Right.
Not using it is not going to work, right? It's
right.
Motion is lotion. But on the other hand, there are parts of your body that you can wear out.
Absolutely.
If you're constantly slamming the RPMs in the red. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's I don't know if that works.
No, it's a great example. So what you want to be doing is you want to be using that car to what it was made to do. In other words, if you've got a Porsche 911, or a Mustang GT, Roush GT, and you drive it like a granny, that's fine. But that car never really experiences, and you never really experience as the driver, what that car could really do.
Right.
But if you do that every single day, and you trash it and thrash it, it won't last very long. If you don't use it at all, it won't last very long. And it won't have much capacity.
Right.
And so the idea is to take care of that car, take care of that body, have a sustainable mindset, and treat it every now and then. Have some fun with it,
right? And
go out and do something. Apply your your physicality and your fitness capacity, and go out and do a recreational sport, or go out and do some type of recreational athletic endeavor. And at the same time, remember that you gotta keep that car for the rest of your life.
That's right. Yeah.
So you want it to be in good shape when the car is an antique.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be a classic first.
How much does a new knee cost?
Yeah, exactly.
But 30 grand?
Yeah.
Is that about right?
Yeah.
That's about what a car costs, right?
It's going to be a classic first, and then it's going to become an antique. And you're getting old when they call classic rock now, like rock that's from the 80s. No, classic rock is the 60s and 70s. I'm sorry. just the way it is.
We used to call music from the 50s and 60s oldies.
That was the oldies. That still is the oldies.
But that was 20 years ago. So now.
Well, okay, whatever. I don't want to talk about that. All right, so hey, guys, thanks for joining 40 Fit Radio. Thanks for talking about sustainability in fitness. If you'd like to hook up with us, go to our Instagram page at 40 Fit Radio. Trent is at Marmalade Cream. I'm at Dr. Deaton. You can also hook up with us. Email info@40fit.com. Go to our Facebook 40 Fit Nation page, and you can also go to our 40fit.com website. We love having you guys. Go out there and get fit, and thanks for joining the 40 Fit Nation.